Teri, just introduce yourself, who you are, and what your title is.
Hi there, I'm Teri Hart. I'm the senior producer and senior reporter for the entertainment division of Rogers.
So Teri, talk about some of the process you go through to cover entertainment stories.
Entertainment stories happen every day, whether it's movies opening, television shows coming to air, when we're doing kind of a story as much as publicizing and letting people know what's available to them. But we're also covering stories that are happening in the news daily. And of course, there's nobody more active on social media, arguably, than celebrities. So we can end up covering that Twitter fight that ends up between Katy Perry and Taylor Swift. We can end up covering somebody talking smack to somebody else on Twitter. And the fact is, we've got to bring context to those stories. We've got to let people know why it matters if Drake is having a fight with somebody on Twitter, why it matters in terms of the Taylor Swift squad versus Katy Perry and her girls. And our job is to make it so that it's not just water cooler conversation for people, but they have context and real information.
Talk about research that you do, like even if you're on red carpet, and also if you pick up a story that's from social media.
Oftentimes when people tell me, oh, it just looks like you're chatting with that person, that's when I've done my most research. I think our job in entertainment, maybe even more than news, is to make it seem like we have a real connection with the people we're talking to in interviews. And the only way to do that is by doing your homework, making sure you know what other movies they've been in, if they have starred with their co-stars another time, if they've worked with this director multiple times. Also making sure that you don't fall victim to anything that can happen online that might not be true. Do your research, dig, make sure that those accounts on Twitter that you're following are verified. That little blue check mark makes a big difference when you're working in entertainment stories. And do not, just because something gets trending doesn't mean it's factual. Something could be trending on Twitter just because people are retweeting. It's not their job to figure out if it's right or not. It's your job as entertainment journalists.
Great. Now, have you covered any stories that have, at the in entertainment that at the start looked like it was going to happen a certain way, then with a little bit of research it turned the other way? Like the only story that I can think of is Gordon Lightfoot, when people killed him. In fact, he was alive, and one of the reporters went and talked to him and said, no, I'm very much alive.
Very much alive. Thank goodness, Gordon Lightfoot. We're very glad that that was just an internet hoax. You know, another one even more recent than that, Amar, is the Brangelina split up. The Brangelina split up happened at about 10:30, 10:45 Eastern Standard Time. That's when the announcement came out. And the first news out of that was that Brad was having an affair with his co-star, Marianne Cotillard, who he co-stars in the upcoming movie Allied with. That ended up to not only be incredibly false, but a bit of a red herring in terms of what actually did, it seems, cause the split, which was Brad's aggression towards one of their children on a private plane and possibly some problems he has with drugs and alcohol. This is all alleged by Angelina Jolie. And you'll notice that when I'm even talking to you guys about this, I'm using words like alleged. I'm using words like possibly. The fact is, when we're reporting on celebrity stories, it's not that it's just gossip and when we can say whatever we want. These are people. These are people's lives. They have children. A lot of money relies on their public perception of who they are. It was very funny in the Brangelina split how so many people said, oh, schadenfreude to Angelina because she had the affair with Brad when they were starring in Mr. and Mrs. Smith together, which blew up into a feminist conversation. So entertainment stories, and even, if you will, gossip stories, really have resonance today. So make sure you know your stuff. Make sure you can talk about these things in context, not just that moment. Make sure you know that Brad and Angelina co-starred in Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and their relationship was the result of an affair when he was married to Jennifer Aniston. All of that makes sense to not only just report on the story, but to have the story have legs and to really recognize the pop culture resonance and, in times, the cultural relevance of the decisions that celebrities, their movies, their music, their choices have on the everyday person.
If somebody wanted to get into, a young journalist wanted to get into entertainment, what would your advice be to them?
Realize that it's reporting just like any other beat, whether it's sports, whether it's news, whether it's politics. Entertainment is a beat. Watch television, watch movies, understand the distribution models, the business of these things. Make sure you aren't just kind of in love with celebrities and in love with movie stars. Make sure you really care about the craft and what's happening to them and how they got to where they are. There are all kinds of resources. In some ways, entertainment these days can be easy. We've got resources like IMDb, People Magazine. There are hundreds and hundreds of blog sites. But establish your own ideas around entertainment. Establish your own ideas about how people want to hear you talk about entertainment. Is it a gossip style that would serve a blog, or is it something more serious that involves reviewing movies, reviewing television shows? There's a wide way of getting into entertainment and talking about it. Figure out what works for you and how you like to talk about entertainment, because it's a big part of people's lives.